Greetings, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Welcome back to my Astroneer Glitchwalkers series. Today we pick up exactly where we left off. We have just activated our portal to the Glitchwalker space, and I'm going to let you watch the cinematic, I guess you could say this is, and I'll do a bigger briefing once this is done. And here we are, all landed and effectively now in a new save game. We're about to discover that we're just a brand new spawn essentially within this hacker space. We have landed in much the same way we would land if we started a normal series, like a new save game. And we've landed on Aeoluz. I don't know, I'll work on my pronunciation of this planet's name eventually. We're just going through the logs there just to get ourselves up to speed with what's going on. Feel free to, pause the video if you need to have a bit of a read, but it's pretty much just a catch up with essentially what we've done so far. And it's also about the sorts of things that we're going to be doing to advance on this planet and eventually get to a point where we can, get up in the hackers' business or, however they want to call it. So at this stage, I'm going to say strap yourself in. Get on your most hacker-resistant underwear. And get ready to explore this new world. Alright, well, in keeping with the relative ease of half of this guy's missions, all we had to do was read the manual on the shelter, and we have completed the mission Bad Connection. Having handed that in, we can see there's a bit of a fancy spawn-in going on, and we've got our new mission, which says VPN message. And we essentially have to start, getting some stuff together. Now, I didn't really do anything about creating much of a base as part of this episode. I didn't really even understand how half of this stuff was going to work. You'll see I've elected to cut a few bits out. Look, no surprise to anyone. I started this at the end of a work day, at the end of a day with an absolute rubbish night's sleep, rinse repeat 2 or 3 days in a row, and that's what this play session was happening in. So the grey matter was definitely not functioning at a particularly high level here. So I'm working on getting some sort of basic materials. I figure I'm going to need a few little odds and ends here and there, so we're doing that. We're just sticking our nose around just to get an idea of what the lay of the land is. We could see that there's that big green storm off in the distance. I feel like that is definitely going to be our first significant thing that we're going to be doing a bit later in this episode. And now we've got this little radio device here called a Vault Seeker. and it is predictably pointing to that thing over there that identifies itself as a vault. Now, these vaults are essentially spawned in by our good friend, and they are protected, I guess you could say, with like an encryption key kind of idea. And it took the brain cells a little while to realize what I needed to be doing here. On the sort of zebra, fancy techno zebra stripe kind of action, or tiger stripe action going on up there, there is actually an odd piece out. There's like a key that we need to take from each of the four sides. Now, that wasn't immediately apparent to me, and yep, there you go. There's one of those bits where I've elected to cut some out. We had to go off and have a bit of a think to ourselves. We did a bit more exploring, and we end up coming back to it a little bit later. And there's essentially a piece that we've got to grab from each of the four sides. Each piece has a pattern, and you've essentially got to identify which piece needs to go onto which side, and there is some rotation required as well. So it does require more than 2 or 3 brain cells to actually get that one working, and yeah, based on how long it took me to reach that conclusion, all I can suggest is I was operating with less than 2 or 3 brain cells for this game session. So, yay me. Anyway, we're now having got some tethers, essentially running out there and staring blankly at the vault. I was kept running out of oxygen, so yeah, hence running off to get some compound to make some tethers. We're going to tether out to the vault, and then we can just sit out here all day until we work out what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And there we go. That is kind of what we need to do. We need to visually identify which piece looks like the most likely piece to fit in the missing spot, rotate it around so that it matches the existing pattern, and boom, there we go. That's the second one in, and it's kind of process of elimination as you go around. Find the right one, chuck it in there, well, rotate it around and then chuck it in there, and then keep going until you've got all 4 keys locked in, and then the vault will unlock. Woohoo! And we now have hacked the Gibson. No, we haven't. We've just unlocked the vault. And this big drawer just opens up on one side, and it's got a thing called a root kit in it. This one specifically is designated as the Alpha Vault, and the thing that we get out of it is called the Alpha Root Kit. Now, anyone care to guess how long it took me to figure out what to do with that? Because it doesn't seem to be particularly obvious when you read the mission briefing, and it's even less obvious when you're operating on less than 2 or 3 brain cells worth of processing power yourself. So it says submit to decipher, and I sort of, thinking, what does that mean? Do I plug it into this thing? What do I do with it? And so, yeah, I messed around with it a while. And it turns out what you actually need to do is just plug it into the shelter. But that kind of wasn't immediately obvious to me, and the next couple of minutes worth of running around is going to further reinforce that. But don't worry, we did work it out eventually. In the meantime, we're going to go off and do a little bit more exploring. I'm kind of keen to have a look at what this storm, looks like in terms of what sort of terrain it's sitting on. Do I need to be aware of aggressive plants in the storm? Yeah, yada yada yada, all that other good stuff. And that's a big honkin' storm. I was thinking I would have been in it by now, but I'm not. I'm still going. I'm not sure why the plants are looking all, LSD like there, but that's probably just an effect of the biome, perhaps, because that does appear to be a separate biome, or it could just be a side effect of being near the storm. I don't know. It doesn't seem to have any practical effect on gameplay. It just seems to be just a visual thing. So yeah, nice attention to detail thing there. We have almost run out of tethers, so we're just going to crank out a few more of those. But before we do, I'm just having a bit of a look to see what other recipes that we might have already unlocked with our activities so far. No surprises there. We don't have access to very much at all. I was looking there to see if there was some device I had to craft, but no, that isn't the case. So yeah, we're still in the thinking process here. There could be some tumbleweeds rolling by. There could be this couple of pre-recorded sound of crickets. A bit of random, 70s elevator music. Just insert mentally whatever you think is appropriate here for my thinking time. And there we go. We finally got there. We can call off the search for additional brain cells at this stage. We've managed to squeak by with the ones that we already had. On to the next mission, which is already talking about level 2, storm stuff, yada yada yada. We haven't even done anything with the level 1 storm stuff yet, so I feel like the descriptions for some of these earlier missions could have been a little bit more obvious in terms of what you needed to do. That would be in keeping with pretty much every other mission in Astroneer, but anyway, I still muddled through this far, and we've decided our next plan is going to be to gather some storm data. So I'm working on getting some odds and ends together. We're just going to make ourselves a little printer. We can't make a tractor because we don't have any aluminium, and it's a new planet, and I know that it's likely that there is some of all of the relevant minerals around the place, but honestly I don't know where they are. The biome I'm in at the moment obviously has compound and resin, as every biome would. It also seems to have quartz, which is what I'm going over here to grab a little bit of. And I think I saw one other material there in the distance. I can't remember what it was. It might have been spherolite. But that's pretty much it in this current area that I'm in at the moment. We don't have anything that's going to allow us to make, or actually mine and then make aluminium. So I'm sure we'll come across some at some stage, but for the moment, the vehicle is just not really on the cards. So what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to make ourselves something similar in terms of content as our tractor that we used back on Silver to gather storm data, except we're going to do it with just medium platforms. So we're going to end up producing a couple of medium platforms. One of them will have Ruby on it. The other couple are going to have generators on them. Ruby requires 5 units of power. A small generator produces 2. So we need to be able to put down 3 generators worth of power. So the medium platforms only have 2 slots on them. So we are just going to produce 3 of these little medium platforms that we have access to. Chain them all up together, get some generators on them, get Ruby fired up, and get some storm data. So that's pretty much what we're doing right now. Now, many reasonably sane individuals would make the argument that technically we only need 1 platform for Ruby and that we would need to daisy chain 3 generators, you know, back to back to back. But given the storm, given the fact that early on I'm going to get hacked quite quickly, the less fiddling around with plugs and cables that I need to do, the better. Linking, like connecting 2 cables to connect, you know, 3 platforms to each other is a lot less. Well, a lot less. It's less than, you know, daisy chaining 3 generators off the end of the platform. So it is a small point, but it was something that I just thought, yeah, I'll just do this. And because I was tired, and you inherently end up being a bit clumsy when you're tired, I just thought, no, I'll go down this road. Yeah, it is, what, an extra 2 resin? I mean, whoop-de-doo. But I thought this was going to work better in this scenario. So, yeah. Anyway, that was just a bit of thought behind why I went down this particular road. If you don't suffer from random bouts of being completely uncoordinated, yeah, you're right. 3 small generators into the medium platform that Ruby will be plugged into will do the job more than adequately at this point. Oh yeah, that's the other thing we needed was a small canister because, yeah, when we started, like when we landed, because we had none of our previous equipment, we of course don't have our soil canister, and without a soil canister, you can't do land filling. And I think it's reasonable to assume that this entire planet is not going to be the lovely, smooth, whole, not present kind of area like we're in at the moment. It's inevitable that we're going to need to be able to make ramps and bridges and all of that good stuff. So at least 1 soil canister at this stage. I'll spit out a few more later if I feel like I need them. Yeah, Dorothy, it's definitely not Kansas anymore. Alright, we're approaching the storm here, and this biome is definitely a lot more angular than the previous one. So it's just as well we did decide to bring a soil canister along with us. And yeah, there's great big ravines everywhere. So yeah, I think we're going to be building a few bridges. So at this point, it's time to fill that canister up because we're going to need every ounce of it. Alright, because of the very three dimensional nature of this ground that the storm is on, I need to get as close as I can to where one of these little concentrated bits of the storm is. Because, you know, the whole time I'm in the storm, I'm going to be getting hacked. And it seemed to be a little bit more frequent than when I was, you know, back on Silver. Silver seemed quite generous in terms of time between, you know, hacking sessions. You're going to find out here in a minute how much quicker it is here. Yep, we've been hacked already. I reckon it's probably 2 or 3 times quicker than Silver. The tethers don't help you with it. All you can do is just run out of the storm to reset it, and then just be as quick and efficient as you can with your, you know, whatever your setup is, getting it all hooked up as quickly as possible. So I had everything all ready to kind of rock and roll here. I'm just plugging these in as I go. Even a little bit of power to Ruby will get Ruby going. But now we've got it all plugged in and we've been hacked again. We're running out. We're giving Ruby a chance to collect a bit of data, and we're just going to run in and run out as we need to, manually picking up the data off Ruby as soon as it's ready. All right, I've not entirely sure exactly how much of this storm data that we need at this point, so I gathered a bit. We're going to run that back to base and just see exactly how far it gets us. Chances are, though, we're probably going to end up coming back in a future session to get more of the storm data, but we'll wait and see how this all pans out. Alright, we've handed in the 4 samples of storm data that we had already gathered. Doesn't seem to have done anything, and honestly I was a bit stuck, and I noticed that the session was about half an hour at that stage, so I just thought, nah, I'm going to leave it at that. And I didn't even notice when I brought this screen up that there seems to be a bar that implies we need a lot more storm data. In fact, we need like 16 units of it to fully, do what we need to do. And I've only just realised that while I was editing. So, yeah, clearly the brain cells were definitely not with it for that session. Now, speaking of sessions, we've come to the end of this one. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and to consider subscribing if you are not already subscribed. Hey, even hit that old notification bell if it tickles your fancy. Until next time, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Thank you very much for watching, and make sure you have yourself an absolutely fantastic day.